We have arrived at the popular Sepang International Circuit in Kuala Lumpur for the running of the Malaysian Grand Prix, the first time GP4 has raced here since 2017. Coming into this week, one team has made the headlines this week, along with a shocking announcement which we'll get onto later. The first bit of news comes from Williams, as they have announced that Welshman Jamie Griffiths will remain with the team for another season. Jamie has had a brilliant rookie season despite at times being caught in collisions. He currently lies 19th in the Drivers' Championship, 2 points behind Amelia Wilson, and his team Williams lie 9th in the Constructors, 8 points ahead of Manor. Jamie has had a total of 2 points finishes in 2020, however they have mainly come in the form of luck for various reasons, with Jamie himself quoting that he wants to get points in a more legitimate way rather than the lucky way. He'll be relieved to know that he'll still be with the Oxfordshire-based team for another season, and he'll be looking to make a big leap forward in 2021. The final bit of news today comes from Ferrari, but it isn't the news that you are expecting. Because in a shocking announcement, it has been confirmed that Italian Roberto Gamba will be retiring from the OC as a whole at the end of the season. His reasons for retirement are the same reasons as Rick Yan's retirement at the end of 2017, work-related. Roberto sent in an audio clip for us to play. We will play the main parts of it, mainly because it is a bit lengthy, but if you want to hear the full audio clip, we will leave a link in the description of this news video once it is uploaded on YouTube. Anyway, here is the main part of the audio clip.
As you know, my work is actually tough. I'm a tour operator for an agency in Naples. These I've decided to take a whole new challenge for my life. That is the one to transfer myself in New Zealand, exactly in Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand, if you don't know. And yeah, I will do the tour operator in Wellington. I want to thank every single member of the team for the opportunity to racing with you, and also a massive thanks to the hosts, which are Jerry, Florian and Joseph, and let's enjoy the last few races of my career in the OC.
From everybody at GP4 OC, we wish Roberto all the very best in the future. His retirement announcement now changes everything at Ferrari, because Roberto was originally meant to be announced this week. However, due to his announcement, that isn't the case now. It has now opened the door for other contenders to grab the second Ferrari seat alongside Jake Galloway, with Chris Chatfield and current Ferrari test driver Bartosz Kloss being the main contenders should he miss out on their number one choice. Chris Chatfield's number one choice is obviously AlphaTauri, as he's hoping to remain there, whilst Bartosz Kloss's number one choice is Haas, his former team that he drove for back in 2015. If both of them end up getting their number one choice, then it could give current GP2 driver Dennis Graff an opportunity to reunite with his old 2018 GP2 teammate at Ferrari. Laura Chunk still has a chance of being retained by the team for another season, however it is looking highly unlikely given that she is more likely to move to the brand new Lamborghini team for 2021. It will be interesting to see who ends up being alongside Jake Galloway at Ferrari in 2021. And that is it for this week's edition of the GP4 OC News. The next team news will break at the Japanese Grand Prix next week, who will be announced due into practice next Tuesday at Suzuka. Hello everybody and welcome to round 16 of the 2020 GP4 Offline Championship here at the returning Malaysian Grand Prix at the Sepang International Circuit in Kuala Lumpur. I am JW97 and I am joined today by, well, he doesn't want me to call him his arch nemesis anymore, so I'll call him the thorn in my butt. It's Ra. How are you doing?
Yeah, hello everybody.
Yes, I had to come up with something new there, Rob. But yes, we are here at Sepang, and as you can see, we've got a dry practice session in store. Obviously, there's a little bit of rain at the end, but it's not going to affect this session. That's after the session's come to a close. But anyway, we're getting onto it, and ignore the loading screen. It is not Indianapolis. We are definitely going to Sepang. Now, of course, I think the main talking point that we've got to talk about is one that's a very big shock to everyone. Roberto Gamba, after getting his first ever podium last time out in South Korea, is going to be retiring from the OC as a whole at the end of the season. So along with Dudu Kirby, he is also retiring. And, we'll get onto the test drives in a little bit, but I have to ask you, Ra, are you very shocked about this news? Because I think everybody was expecting him to be retained by Ferrari.
Yeah, and especially when you mentioned that he was supposed to be announced this week as well with Jamie Griffiths, who actually got announced this week as well, which wasn't a surprise for Griffiths, but big surprise that Roberto Gamba's retiring, and the fact that he was originally should have been announced, and yeah.
So we were supposed to have two people announced this week rather than one, but after Roberto's retirement, announced to us on the Thursday, just to point out, a day before we did the call, but we found out looking at the ratings, he was probably going to get announced this week anyway. He's not going to be at Ferrari next season, and it's now opened the door wide open for some new contenders to be Jake Galloway's teammate at Ferrari next season. We mentioned them in the news video. Chris Chatfield could be given a lifeline if he doesn't get retained by AlphaTauri, but he's also got Bartosz Kloss to worry about, who is the current Ferrari test driver, and even Dennis Graff if both Bartosz and Chris end up getting their number one pick, which is AlphaTauri and Haas, respectively. But it will be very interesting to see what happens with Ferrari for next season. But yeah, it's definitely going to be very, very interesting now that we know that it won't be Roberto Gamba, and it's highly unlikely Laura is going to get retained, because we expect it to be at the new Lamborghini team next season. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but it's looking highly likely that that might be the case. Right. Let's get on to the action, shall we? You may have just seen there are two test drivers on the track today. We have Rivki Fakhrizadeh in the Mercedes in the place of Amar Kar, because of the fact that Kar is behind Lopez in the championship. And we also have Maxim Titkov in the Manor in place of Rosetta Martinez. So, that's that, really. So they are the two test drivers on track. We were originally meant to have Lorenzo Tomaselli, but after Yuri found out that he'd accidentally put him on a week that GP2 was taking part at a standalone event, that standalone event, of course, being Brno, that has obviously been changed to Japan next week. So we'll be seeing Lorenzo Tomaselli in the Red Bull next week at Japan. So that's that, really. And I just want to point out as well that, you know, the Discord issues I've had in the past when it comes to audio, and the audio from the gameplay still being on even though I turned it off. Well, it seems to have fixed itself, so that's good. So I've got no issues now with Discord, so that's a big plus. But yeah, obviously we did get one announcement this week as well, other than Roberto's retirement. Jamie Griffiths is staying at Williams for next season, so Williams will be retaining their lineup from this season into next season, and I would say fully deserved, you'd have to say, Ra.
Yeah, indeed, especially when he got more points in the bag for himself and for the team in Korea.
Yes, indeed. And hello, Chris. You may have heard the news that Roberto is retiring. May have given you a lifeline if you don't get retained by AlphaTauri, because you obviously have Ferrari as your backup. So we'll have to wait and see. But maybe a similar situation with Chris, because remember last season with David Kupok and Roberto Gamba when they had AlphaTauri as their first choice, and then one of them ended up getting the Ferrari seat because it was their backup. Maybe a similar situation with Chris if he ends up going there, if he doesn't get retained by AlphaTauri, because of course he is still competing with that seat alongside David Kupok, because of course we know that Miklos Gau is heading back to the sister team for next season. But we've got some lap times on the board. Lopez 2 seconds quicker than Verderi. Byrne went to second, but now it's been quickly taken by Chung. And then Franco Gamba, as we now look at Amelia Wilson, who's holding up Rivki Fakhrizadeh, who, of course, is driving today in the Mercedes. And for him, it's probably the closest to a home Grand Prix, because Indonesia is not that far away, of course, from Malaysia. So it's the closest he's probably going to get to a home race. Well, not a home race, but just a home outing. And in fact, he goes quicker than the championship leader by 0.3 of a second at 1:30.799. So it's the first time we've seen somebody going to the 1-minute 30s today. Roberto Gamba, the man who will be retiring at the end of the season, along with Dudu Curry, only 13th. I wonder if he got held up on that lap. But we are back in Sepang, and hopefully a second arc at redemption for this track, because the last time we were here, Ra, it was a very, very, very chaotic race.
Yeah, indeed. It pretty much got Yuri to lose his temper, and he tried to calm down, and luckily he managed to finish the race in the end. But
indeed, he came that close to practically pulling his hair out, let's put it that way. Well, hopefully, thanks to the new weight patch that's been put in for Grand Prix 4, which seems to have fixed the issues with this track, hopefully that is not going to be the case as Rivki Fakhrizadeh struggles to find a way through a Maxim Titkov right in front. And so far, it seems that it's working so far, because we know in the past that corner has been known for a lot of, well, you could say a lot of bump and runs and a lot of major contacts. But it seems so far they're keeping it very tidy for into there so far, as Laura Chung going side by side with one of the Renaults there into the final corner, and was able to stay in front. And the last time Laura Chung, in fact, actually raced around here was in 2017 in GP2. In fact, it's GP2's only time they've ever raced at Sepang, which is quite an interesting statistic if anybody wants to know that. As meantime, the two test drivers are going to go side by side, Fakrazane and Titkov. As we look at Felix Sontag, he's probably happy to know that he will still have the same teammate for next season in the form of Jamie Griffiths. And we're very interested to see if Williams make any progressions next season, especially with the fantasy era. Unlike in real life, where it seems all the Mercedes teams seem to be towards the back at the moment, except if you're obviously Mercedes, of course, but they seem to be struggling at the moment. But Roberto Gamba was able to improve, but only up to 19th. I do wonder if he has got traffic. The McLarens are not having so far a good session, only 14th and 18th so far for both Willows and De Rosa at this point in time. As Fakrazane makes his way out of turn 4 there, wearing his Nick Heifeld helmet. Of course, he is a big fan of Nick Heifeld, so that's why he has his helmet usually for when he does outings like this. And of course, he is a DTM Championship contender as well, is Rifki Fakrazane. It's just a shame that he hasn't really signed up for a main seat in the top class, really. Of course, his aim, of course, is to win every tier possible. And, well, we know now that he won't be able to win BTCC because that one is being replaced by World Champ Car, but obviously, he's in the DTM title fight and looking to be the second person to win in 2 different tiers. He obviously won the GP2 title back in 2010 and looking to see if 10 seasons later he can try and win the DTM title in the battle that he's currently having with Roman Quarg, Julius Anderson and Daniel Adventure. So be very interested to see if he can try and come out on top of that one, as Federi did not improve. Laura Chung has, though. She goes up into 6th, as Franco Gamba is not improving there, and still yet to be announced is Franco Gamba, it's fair to say. We did mention the other week that there are other contenders for that Red Bull seat. They're very shocking contenders in the form of Daniel Adventure and Rosetta Martinez, who could nab the seat. But I think it's fair to say at this point, as we sit here right now, even though he's had a bit of a shaky season, I think Franco probably more likely to get retained. But we will wait and see unless he does some more dips in performance. Because it's fair to say, whilst he has got the qualifying nailed this season, in fact he won his qualifying battle against Miklos Gal, he never seems to hook it up in the race for some reason, Ra.
It gives a new meaning to qualifying merchant for the Gamba, for Franco Gamba, for him. And yeah, the races, he just doesn't get it together. I mean, yeah, he could have won in Belgium, but he made a big mistake and pretty much bottled it. But yeah, I think Gal is pretty much comfortable in the races compared to Franco Gamba.
Especially now that Gal has possibly, well, I wouldn't say he's got a chance at the championship, but he does have a mathematical slim chance of winning it after his dominant performance in South Korea last time out. The first time he's had 3 wins in the season since 2013, I think. So, yeah, he surpassed what he's usually been doing the last few years, which has usually been getting 1 or 2 wins. He's now got the 3 wins. Whoa. Here's a test of the new pit lane entrance we heard about, and it seems to have worked, it seems, because Yuri told us that the pit lane has been altered for these cars, thanks to Flo, and it seems, looking at this, it might have worked.
Yes, indeed. It has worked.
Yes,
Chung managed to slow down a lot from that.
It seems that the person on the inside going into the pits is a little bit more patient to wait for the person around the outside to go through, although it might hold them up in the race, so that may be something to keep an eye on when it comes to the race, should there be any side-by-side action going through into the pit entrance. So, anyway, as Franco Gamba makes his way through turn 2, and I have to point out something, because somebody mentioned about Roberto's audio. He did mention to me that it was a little bit muffled. He did, I believe, from what he told me when he sent me that audio clip, he was at work when he was doing it, so I do believe he was trying to not be too loud, so to speak. Although, to be fair, you'll hear when because I'm putting the full audio clip, because I only played some of it. For the news feed, the full audio you'll get in the description of that video once I upload it tonight. But you do hear at the beginning his audio was fine, and then it sort of dipped like a few seconds in. So I guess it's a combination of him trying to keep quiet at work, but also at the same time maybe just his mic playing up on him there on his mobile phone. I presume he did the audio one. So yeah, he did do it from work. I can clarify it to you. He did send me to that on Discord. So just thought I'd clarify that because I've seen on the stream chat that Evan and Franco pointed that out. So yeah, that's what I can clarify there. So, but yeah, for anybody who's just tuned in and is not aware of the news, Roberto Gamba, to the shock of everybody, is retiring from the OC as a whole at the end of the season, which has now left a big question mark as to who will be Jake Galloway's teammate next season at Ferrari, because Roberto was originally meant to be confirmed this week to be staying at Ferrari, which would have meant that Laura Chung would have been out of a drive, not out of a drive, but out of a drive at Ferrari, I should say, because it's looking likely that she's going to be going to Lamborghini regardless. But yeah, that was that. But of course, because of his retirement, that is not going to be the case now. It has now opened the door for a few other contenders to potentially be Jake Galloway's teammate at Ferrari next season. So it will be very interesting to see. Those people I just mentioned in the news video were, of course, Chris Chatfield, Bartosz Kloss, and Dennis Graf, should Chris and Bartosz get their number one choices. Chris is, of course, being AlphaTauri, and Bartosz is being Haas. So, and of course, Bartosz is the Ferrari test driver as well. I should point that one out. And he's also having quite a decent season in DTM, it's fair to say. Bartosz trying to have a bit of a redemption arc, it's fair to say. After the last time he was in the top class, he came off probably his worst ever season in the OC, where he didn't really do well in the tiers, it's fair to say. Finished tier 5 in the ratings, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016. It was a terrible season in the Sauber. Ended up being in DTM, where he's kind of stayed for the last few seasons now, and he seemed to have made a recovery in terms of form in the last few seasons. Whether he can get himself in title contention in these last 3 races, it's another question. I think it's a bit of a far-fetched reach, but Roberto wasn't even a title contender, I don't think, in DTM, but he still managed to make his way back in the top class for this season before announcing his retirement, obviously. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but yeah, it will be interesting to see who ends up being at Ferrari next season alongside Jake Galloway. As George Roach just crossed the line there, but wasn't able to improve as he now makes his way down towards the first corner. It will be very interesting to see who benefits this track the most, really, because in real life, when F1 last raced in 2017, whilst there were 2 long straights, it was mainly a downforce track. Now, whether that will be the case in the OC universe with this track, it will be another question. But don't be surprised if these 2 long back straights favour the likes of the Mercedes and the Racing Points, who have also looked pretty strong down the straights that we've seen in the likes of Monza. As we ride on board with David Kupak, who's just coming around turn 2. Of course, a man who finally scored some points last time out in South Korea by finishing in 6th position. And finally, a good race for David Ra.
Yeah, especially where he started down in P20. And the fact that he got points is a pretty good result for him. And boosts his chance and his future. And hopefully he can keep doing it.
Yep, we'll have to wait and see. And hello, Kira, who's just joined us in the stream chat. As we look back at Roke at this point in time, we're just over 17 minutes to go. So at the moment, it is current Mercedes test driver Rivki Fakruzin who's at the top, with Lopez in 2nd, Franco Gamba 3rd, with Gall in 4th, and then it is De Rosa 5th, Roke in 6th, followed by Chung in 7th, then Chatfield in 8th, Galloway in 9th, followed by Kupak in 10th, Motra in 11th, and then Byrne 12th, Fraser 13th, Wilson up in 14th at the moment, Willow's down in 15th, Sontag 16th, Griffiths, who is going to be staying at Williams, as we found out today, in 17th, with Gomez in 18th, Roberto Gamba, the man who's going to be retiring at the end of the season, in 19th, followed by Titkov, the Mana test driver, in 20th, Videri in 21st, and Kirby, the other person retiring at the end of the season, in 22nd and last. So, that's that so far, as we are on board with Roland Motrin. It looks like he's going to get overtaken by a Red Bull, it seems, on the inside. That Red Bull being Miklos Gau, because that's the Max Verstappen helmet. So, yeah, so it was the 2 Hungarians going into combat in the first corner for some reason in practice. So, the news, Jamie Griffiths is staying at Williams, Cairo, and Roberto Gamba will be shockingly retiring from the series at the end of the season, from the OC as a whole. As meantime, whilst I was talking there, Laura Chung has actually got up into 3rd position. So pretty good time there at the moment from the Ferrari driver, but it seems there's so far a bit of a gap between themselves and the Mercedes so far in practice.
Yep, indeed, as Gomez improves to 13th in the meantime.
Yes, he has, as Roke now then will go flat out through the left and right-hander now then, as now will make his way towards the support pit straight. This is because this is actually a pit straight, because obviously there is another layout if you go towards the right of the screen. In fact, you might just see it as we look at road there. Look, you can just see that extra bit of tarmac. It leads to another layout of Sepang. So, as is that bit over there, in fact. So, just thought if anybody is interested in that. As Roke did not improve, in fact, by over 7/10 of a second there. So, at the moment, currently lying in 7th position. And, of course, Roke was the culprit of, well, I say culprit, one of the many victim, well, the one victim of the pit lane entrance glitch, the rare pit lane entrance glitch at Yehognam, as the person who actually was involved in that, Miklos Gau, goes up into 3rd position. And yeah, you obviously want to forget that weekend as a whole. In fact, many people want to forget the Korean Grand Prix, given that we only had 10 finishes in that race. So that's that really, and it's a bit ironic. I mentioned it earlier on, but I find it a little bit ironic that a week after he gets his first ever podium, Roberto announces his retirement. So obviously it wasn't intentional, because I don't think Roberto was aware that he got a podium in that race, because he usually catches up with the highlights. But yeah. It's a little bit ironic that, but yes. So as Roke just comes around the right-hander, of course, this is the bit where sadly some tragedy with this track. Of course, that is the area, of course, where nearly 11 years ago Marco Simoncelli lost his life in MotoGP, and yeah, so a little bit of sad history there with regards to this circuit. As now Roke comes up towards the final turn, as meantime Roberto Gamba fighting with Kirishima De Rosa there, and fending him off through into the double right-hander. And of course we'll be seeing this track again next season in 2021 as well, because of course, let's not forget, it was originally meant to be the Argentine Grand Prix we were meant to be going to in 2021 at Buenos Aires, but unfortunately due to track issues that is not going to be the case. And there were other tracks that were considered to be on the 2021 calendar, and in fact I did reveal it on the Discord, but I might as well mention it as well. The 3 other tracks that were considered were Fuji, Singapore, which I think Xavier Wee will be a little bit disappointed to hear about, that Singapore was considered again, and this is the one you'll be a little bit upset with, Ra. India was also considered, but unfortunately Yuri didn't have enough time to test those tracks, so it ended up, because a decision needed to be made, it was decided that Malaysia would host both, as my voice decided to go there, well done, would decide to host both round 16s in 2020 and 2021. Whether it will still be on the calendar after 2021, though, it is another question. I guess it all really depends, really, on if these races are much better than what we had in the past with this track. So, that's that, really. As now we look at Roberto Gamba. He's making his way around the long swooping turn 3 before making his way up towards turn 4. I think it's fair to say with this track, in fact, a lot of people would love this track to be back on the F1 calendar in real life. I mean, there was talk about it in real life, potentially replacing the Russian Grand Prix, but apparently I've heard those talks have apparently broken down. So that's that, really. As now we go, Roberto goes up towards the double right-hander. I do believe that De Rose is coming to the pits because he was behind him, but yeah, he is in the pits according to the timing tower. As we ride on board now with Emilia Wilson, and as that is now go around the section of corners. As very interesting statistic there with from Yuri. I don't know if I should be sharing that or not, but it's that really. As now Wilson comes up towards the hairpin. And in fact, I do know about that fact, Yuri, because Flo actually told me when I was, what was I doing? He did tell me, but I can't remember when he said it. I can't remember when he said it, to be honest. He did tell me, but I can't remember when it was. It was during a, it was either in a GP2 or a DTM commentary session. I can't remember when it was. I definitely know it wasn't yesterday, he told me. It was another day, he told me, but can't remember when he told me, to be honest. That one's kind of escaped out of my head. So, anyway, back to the action. Wilson's just coming around the final turn. She's currently in 16th position, although it doesn't look like the American is going to improve on this lap. And no, she doesn't. She remains in 16th position as she now makes her way down towards turn 1. Obviously, last time we came here in 2017, turn 1 was a bit of a chaotic corner as well. But so far, we haven't seen anything major into that corner so far, knock on wood. But anyway, as coming out of turn 3 before making her way up towards turn 4 and 1/10 down on her personal best in the first sector. I should point out, really, that I mentioned it yesterday in the GP2 commentary when I was doing only the qualifying commentary alongside Rob yesterday. I do believe he's got somebody else to do it for the race. I believe it's Dennis, if I'm not mistaken. But I said yesterday, because obviously, if anybody's not aware, the World Champ Car sign-ups, well, that's a temporary name for it. It could be its actual name, it might not be. But at the moment, it's just a bit of a standby name, if you want to put it that way. But the sign-ups for that got opened this past Sunday, and we've had quite a decent amount of sign-ups for that one, including some OGs of the series who could return perhaps in 2021 via IndyCar. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, one of the teams in there is Mana. Mana will be moving over to the new World Champ Car Series next season, and it kind of makes my side pod that I made, because I obviously made the 2020 livery for the Mana, it makes that side pod a little bit redundant, because it says, thank you for the memories. It should probably just say, thank you for the memories, ... in the top class. So, yeah, that kind of makes that side pod a little bit redundant, and the whole last hurrah on the rear wing a little bit redundant, but oh well, I'm not going to bother changing it. It's staying as it is. So,
anyways.
Yeah, anyway, so yeah, it's a little bit of unfortunate wording there on the side pods and the rear wings of this manner, but what can you do? So anyway, riding on board, speaking of a manner, with Amelia Wilson as she makes her way up towards turn 4, losing all the curb on the inside, as we've got just under 9.5 minutes to go in this practice session. I'm not asking you to, Evan. I'm just saying. I wasn't implying you to edit it. I'm just saying it's a little bit redundant now, that side pod. But there we are. So, anyways, Gabriel Gomez now then makes his way down the support pit straight, as he'll now make his way towards the final corner. As now we look at Felix Sontag, who's getting overtaken by Jake Galloway, or being attempted to be overtaken by Jake Galloway, but it isn't going to quite work out. As Dudu Kirby looks like he had a little bit of a lock-up going through into the hairpin there. As Gomez goes up into 13th, meanwhile, getting in front of Byrne by 400ths of a second. And ironically, Byrne in front of Fraser at the moment. These two a little bit too buddy-buddy right now, it's fair to say. Well, I say buddy-buddy, more of these two want to punch each other in a boxing ring, it's fair to say, because I think for the 6th time this season the pair of them have come to blows, although this time you could argue that Evan was the one that caused the accident this time by between the pair of them. Will it be the last that we see of those two making contact, or do you think they'll squeeze maybe a couple of more in before the season comes to a close, Ra?
Knowing what the season has become, there'll probably be like two more of those two colliding into each other.
Could say it's the OC equivalent of Hamilton and Massa from 2011, you could say, although neither of them have got a world championship to their name, and nor were either of them rivals for a championship at one point. But anyway, whilst we were speaking there, Q-Pockers get up into 4th position, only by 1,000th though, ahead of Laura Chung, so not much separating those two at this point in time, as one of the Mercedes is being held up by Gabriel Gomez. And so we now look at Amelia Wilson, who's making her way into the hairpin, goes downhill before going back up the hill again, and the sector point is just before they turn through that right-hander. And as you saw there, Wilson 2 seconds off of Fakrazin in the second sector, as Roke tries to find a way through on, I believe that is Fraser. In fact, he's trying to find a way through. It was one of the Hasses. I think it says number 11 on the car, and it is Fraser. It's number 11. As he's also got one of the Red Bulls behind. I believe that was Franco Gamba, because it looked like a pink helmet. So it looks like, well, unless he somehow doesn't make it onto the grid, it looks like we're only going to get one Gamba on the grid again next season, like we got in 2018. So we'll be seeing the prefix GAM again, as opposed to FGA and RGA. So that's that really, as Gomez finds himself 6/10 down in the first sector compared to Fakrazin, and down on his personal best. We're not seeing much improvement so far on the racetrack, only the odd few here and there, but we have seen plenty of times in practice that people like to leave their improvements towards the end of the session. Whether that's the case around here in Sepang, it's another question, as Gomez now then makes his way towards the hairpin, flicks it in through the hairpin. And we now look, and he's 1.5 off in the second sector, so he's currently setting a better lap than he did on the previous lap. But still not an improvement at the moment, unless I got him confused with another driver that we were paying attention to. It might have been Amelia Wilson. In fact, I may have got him confused with there. I do apologise. How on earth I get an Alpha and a Manor confused, I'm not sure. But there we are. Has Roke now then managing to get by on Daniel Fraser into turn 4. And a little bit of a funny story with that turn 4 the last time we came to Sepang. Anybody remember Joel Hutter, who was driving for Haas at that time? Always seemed to go off the track at that corner for whatever reason. Yeah, it was a weird race that was. Joel Hutter never could get that corner correct when the changeable conditions happened during that chaotic Malaysian Grand Prix back in 2017. And another person who was also finding himself in a lot of chaos during that race was Michael Mocho, who was driving for Toro Rosso. Somehow managed to grab a 4th place despite being involved in a load of incidents that race. I guess the chaotic nature of it, the race kind of came to him, really. So, hopefully we don't ever see that again, of course, in Malaysia. As Gomez, meanwhile, is currently holding up Evan Byrne, who is reverted back. He obviously did this in the last race, but I might as well point it out. He's reverted back to an old helmet of his that he used, I think, back in 2018, I want to say. I think he used that specific helmet in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure Evan can correct me in the stream chat. But he is up in his personal best, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be down in a little bit because he is being held up by the Alfa Romeo in front, let's see. No, he's still up, in fact, surprisingly enough, so he didn't lose too much there, but you could say that there maybe is more time to find. Whoa! That's George Roke, that's Roke, who's just had a massive accident there with the Manor of, I think that was Amelia Wilson, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's Titkoff.
It was Titkov. It was the Manor test driver. I do apologise there. It was Titkov who was the one that caused the incident. But Roke having a massive accident in practice down at the first corner. Now, was this a similar incident that we saw in 2017? Or was this an unfortunate incident? Let's see. As the marshals tow Roke, and that is a huge crash. Taylor's on the way, and in fact, it was a free wide moment that happened. That's what caused it, because look at this. Gamba was on the inside of the pair of them, and, well, Titkov didn't know what to do, really. He was trying to give Gamba space, but kind of compromised Roke, and that's what caused the accident.
You probably gave Gamba a lot of space. I didn't leave Roke that much of space, but, yeah.
Is this going to be an issue if there's a free wide moment in the race tomorrow? Hopefully not, but yeah, that was very, very big crash there for George Roke, and well, he's not got that far to get to the pit, so he can jump into the spare car, obviously get checked over by the FIA doctors. Obviously, because, well, I say FIA doctors, the FIA don't run this. What the hell am I talking about? But the on-site doctors will check him up to see if he's okay. Probably do a little check like they did with Martin Brundle back in real life in 1996 in Australia, and he'll jump straight back in the spare car because he's, like I said, he hasn't got that far to walk. But yeah, a massive, massive accident here in practice involving, well, 3 cars, you could say. Franco Gamba, Maxim Titkov, and George Roke. A big accident indeed, and well, and already a big accident to kick off our return here to Malaysia, and well, chaotic scenes indeed. A lot of damage down there, and it's obviously resulted in Titkov also losing his rear wing, as Byrne was able to improve to get up into 11th, and he's now clear of Gomez, so we should be able to get a much clearer lap in, because the AI don't seem to lift off when there's yellow flags, only when it comes to overtakes most of the time. So meanwhile, Joseph Wellows, who finds himself down in 18th, currently behind his teammate right now, as Sontag is up on his personal best at the moment. Chatfield's lost his front wing, in fact. Chatfield's got damage. Where's he had that? Is that from the debris from the crash we saw earlier? It might be. Let's have a look. I think it is, because he was right behind Titkov there. Let's see when he got the damage, and let's see what bit of debris he caught. So you can just see in front the crash has already happened, but what does he hit? Let's have a look. He's got the pit symbol already, in fact. I think he was coming in.
Did he hit Titkov?
Might have done. Let's have a look. And yes, he just drove straight into the back of him, really. So a bit of a clumsy drive there from Chris Chatfield, it's fair to say, and he can't really be doing that given he's under pressure to perform right now, not just for AlphaTauri, but now we know with Ferrari, given the 2 other contenders who could be Jake Galloway's teammate next season at Ferrari. So he can't be affording to do that, but luckily this is only practice and not qualifying and the race. So lucky that one. He's got the steam out of the way for that one, and he'll hope not to do it in the race tomorrow, and even in qualifying a little bit later on as well, as Amelia Wilson wasn't able to improve as somebody is coming out onto the racetrack that is one of the Ferraris, as going through the first couple of corners, as Sontag meanwhile improves to go up into 16th, gets himself in front of Daniel Fraser, so he finds himself behind Roberto Gamba at the moment by, if I can do my maths, that is 28 thousandths of a second, as Wilson finds herself 9/10 down on Fakhrizadeh in the first sector, nearly a full second in fact. So the Manners appear to be, unless this is just the fuel that's doing this, but the Manners appear to be struggling in the first sector as Fakhrizadeh making his way around the rear wingless Maxim Titkov, and that might be the end of the session for Titkov in fact, because look how much time there is left, so he might not have enough time to do another lap. So not the way he wanted to end his time in the manner, before handing the keys back to Rosetta Martinez for qualifying. So not the way he would have wanted that practice session to come to an end for him. And now we come around the flat-out left-handers. We now look at Felix Sontag, who he looks like getting a little bit out of shape going through the right-hander there. And so this lap already a little bit of a write-off for the German, but again, it doesn't really count in this session. It's only practice, qualifying coming a little bit later on. Sontag uses all the curb on the outside as he'll now make his way down towards the back straight before heading towards the final turn, as we run on board with Gabriel Gomez, who makes his way through the very quick left-right chicane, as Fakhrizadeh getting a little bit out of shape into the beginning of that, but it looks like so far he's going to be topping the sessions. Willows improves, but only up into 14th position, ending up sandwiched between the two Alfa Romeos so far. Only 2 minutes to go in this session, as Fakhrizadeh goes flat out through the left and right hander there before making his way through the second to last corner. And now make his way out of that turn as we look back at Wilson, who finds herself 8/10 down, so already doing a better first sector than what she did on the previous lap, as one of the Alpha Tauris there was up on his personal best, I believe, in the first sector, looking at the depth panel. As we run on board with Fakhrizadeh now then, he just comes out of the final turn. It doesn't look like he's going to be an improvement for the Indonesian, but we'll see anyway. Across the line, no, he's way off, and he's 1.7 seconds off his best time of a 1:30.799. His teammate for today, Franco Lopez, just over a tenth behind him at the moment. Fakhrizadeh doing a good job before handing the keys back over to Amar Khan for qualifying. Motrin's finish is coming into the pits. Dudu Kirby will get himself one more lap before the session comes to a close, as Franco Lopez now then we're riding on board with the championship leader, whose podium streak of course came to an end last time out at the Korean Grand Prix after being involved in after collecting debris from the Car and Sontag crash from last week. So he didn't gain anything from Car, nor did Car gain anything on Lopez, so the gap obviously still 35 points going here at Malaysia, as now Laura Chung makes her way down the pitch straight. She's currently in 5th position and she remains in 5th. Amelia Wilson comes out of the final turn, coming down the pit straight. And let's see what Wilson can do. Across the line, and no, way off her personal best. Same for Joseph Willows, as he now comes down the pit straight. Across the line he will go, and he in fact finds some time in the last sector but remains in 40th position. Cupot wasn't able to improve. Felix Sontag, no improvement for him. Gamba is finished for the day. He's come back into the pits. Daniel Fraser, out of the final turn he will go, as he will now come across the line, and he does not improve, nor does Miklos Galloway is up on his personal best. Galloway currently in 12th position. Can he get the Renault into the top 10 as the seconds tick by? He can. He gets up into 8, 4, 3, 2, 1. Videri does enough to do another lap. 0. Checker flag is out, and that is the end of the session. Videri was the last car to cross the line. Here is Jamie Griffiths, the man who will be staying with Williams for next season. Griffiths across the line, no improvement, stays where he is. Rifki Fakhrizadeh on his final lap before handing the keys back over to Amar Khan for qualifying. Fakhrizadeh crosses the line and he does not improve. Roke just getting some mileage for the Racing Point in the spare car, might I point out, after that huge crash he had a little bit earlier with Maxim Titkov and Franco Gamba, of course, who ironically could be George's teammate next season at Red Bull. Gomez comes across the line, no improvement for him. Chatfield just getting mileage in the Alpha Tauri after he obviously got some damage earlier from that crash. Same with Roberto Gamba, he's just getting mileage as Dudu Kirby's up on his personal best. Let's see what the Brazilian can do. He's currently in last. Can he push Titkov down to last position across the line? And yes, he can. He goes up into 20th, pushes Griffiths and Titkov down. Here comes Lopez on his final flying lap. The Argentine comes across the line, and no improvement for him. Laura Chong comes down the pit straight, across the line. Will go, and no improvements for her. Across the line she will go, I should say. I do apologise. As here comes Amelia Wilson coming around the final turn. She's now going to cross the line, and the American crosses the line, and no improvement for her. Joseph Willows crossed the line, no improvement for him. Same for Cupoc. Of course, we're waiting for Videri to cross the line because he was the last car to cross the line as Gal overtakes Fraser into their final turn. And so Gal will finish the lap up next as he now makes his way down the pit straight, and across the line will go the Hungarian, no improvement. Same for Daniel Fraser. Here comes Jake Galloway, the penultimate car to finish a lap. Across the line he will go then in the Renault, and no improvement. And here is Videri, the last car to do a lap here in practice. Can he improve? I doubt it, but across the line he goes and he doesn't improve. And that is that then. Now, his practice done with Rivki Fakruzane at the top, with Lopez in second and Mikloskow in third. So what do you make of that session overall, Ra?
Interesting session, to be honest. I mean, Fakruzane did well for his first outing as test driver for Mercedes, quickest ahead of Lopez. Now it's time for Armor Car to do what he can do for going into qualifying.
Yep, indeed. Well, we're just going to take a brief pause and then we'll be back for the qualifying. But in the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Ra, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a bit.